Scott. Okay.
Here we are.
This study session of the Mahomet-Seymour Board of Education is called to order. It is 7 p.m. Monday, March 4th. At this time, I'd like to remind anyone attending in person to silence their cell phones. Let's do roll call. We don't have any visitors today. Graham.
Here.
Gordon.
Here.
Evans. Here. Brock. McComb.
Here.
Bannister. McMurray. Here. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You. Okay, you had a chance to review the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented? So moved. Thank you. Any seconds?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, we can do a voice vote on that. If you are in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, that passes. And as I mentioned, we have no here public comment wise. So Dr. Lee, we are going to jump into e-learning. All background.
Yes, in your packet is our current e-learning plan, as well as the resolution that was adopted in September of 21. So that is good for 3 years. So this fall, ours will expire. So I also included in there what the school code says about it. We'll get feedback. We have gotten feedback from some of our principals. We'll continue to get feedback. If you guys have feedback, and then we'll work with stakeholders to continue to take a look at what e-learning looks like, and then potentially bring this fall. So this is early. I just wanted to get it on your guys' radar.
So when we had our snow or weather issues earlier in the school year, there were a lot of comments brought to us, comments that, you know, you had shared with Dr. Lee. We figured this would be a good time to talk about it.
When we negotiated our last contract with the MSEA, we put some money in there at their request that kind of moved us towards e-learning, I guess, on snow days.
Yes.
Any idea on how the MSEA goes about e-learning at this point?
Well, it's very early, you know, in the process, but I would certainly think that would still be the opinion. Yes.
Forgive me for asking a question I probably should know the answer to, but is e-learning a state law or federal law?
It's an option within our state, and it's I'm sure it's present in various states, but this is through the Illinois School Code and State Board of Education that schools can use e-learning as an option, or they can still use traditional snow days as an option, as Max alluded to in our contract, because that the first thought process on it would be an e-learning day. So. You know,
and the MSEA requested that we do e-learning on snow days whenever possible. I think that's how the language.
Yeah.
That was in 2020?
It's in the current contract.
Okay.
It's in the current contract. We did the current contract and we ratified it in the fall of 22. So, you know, when it says something along the lines of whenever possible, I think the spirit of that is that would be the first reaction as long as there's power. There's no power in town.
Right.
We can't have any.
And how many snow days do we have typically a year? It seems to me like 2 or 3.
Last year we had 0. This year we had two e-learning days.
Which don't have to be made up. The advantage to e-learning days is if you're providing e-learning opportunities for students, that meet the requirement of time in school. So you don't have to add those days to the end.
The disadvantage of e-learning is we're really accomplishing what we want.
And I don't think we are. But that's just, I'm probably going to be unpopular opinion.
Well, no, say more.
I just don't see why we just can't go back to having traditional snow days. I mean, I know there's only like 2 or 3 days, probably the most every year that we're going to have to do this. So it's kind of which side are you on? I just don't feel, and this is probably more based on personal experience, and no one's at fault here. It's just how it is, how the situation is. I don't feel like students are actually benefiting from a learning standpoint.
You can give specifics, like,
Well, because teachers email them their and I'm only speaking at upper junior high, high school, okay? Teachers email them their assignments, and not every student is gonna do it like they should, and oftentimes it doesn't take very long. Certain classes are different. I just don't feel like they're really truly learning. Like, why not just have them have a traditional snow day, add on 1 or 2, 3 days at the end of the year? And I know that there's been discussions before that, like, at the end of the year, the learning really isn't there anyway. But I feel like that the kids are held more accountable to having to learn, even though
When
they're
they're
in
in
school,
person.
even if it's the end of May, beginning of June. That is just strictly my opinion. I just don't feel, I mean, this was brought on because of COVID. COVID is over. The CDC, the new guidelines now, if you have tested positive for COVID, it's basically what our health regulations have been
Right.
since, I can't remember
Forever.
when. Fever gotta be 24 hours free. I don't know. I think it'll help for the kids. Let them have a snow day. It's only 2 or 3 days.
so your main concern, correct me if I'm wrong, your main concern is with the upper grade levels. It doesn't feel like they are benefiting academically because they're not actually engaged in learning opportunities throughout the day like they would be if they were in school, even if the in school were later in the year.
Yes, and I'm hesitant to make a blanket statement because again, I don't know
Absolutely.
the whole entire district.
For sure.
Education's not what we're supposed to be about.
Yeah.
I might add that to what Becky said. And I had no kids in the junior high or the high school. I only know what I hear. What I hear is a lot of what Becky just said. In some cases, there's a lot of good material the kids are supposed to do, and there's assignments, and there's expectations. But it doesn't seem like that is an across the board situation. Unfortunately, it seems like that's from what I hear. And again, what you hear was what you hear, right? If what I heard was right, we would have had a Jimmy John's in Mahomet 20 years ago. So I'm willingly stating that it's just based on what I hear. It's not based on any experience, that students really having good solid assignments to get really solid work done is more the exception than the rule.
Yes, and I don't think that we should keep them just so we don't have to tack on 2 or 3 days at the end of the year. And I don't know this, but I would feel like at the younger levels, the parents have to be with their kids and be with them the whole time, or their caregiver, whoever that may be, because parents have to work. I don't see the problem in going back pre-COVID and let them have a snow day.
I would submit that we're supposed to be about learning, and if we're about excellent learning here at Mahomet-Seymour. And we either, in my opinion, we either need to revert back to the old plan, or work on a plan to make e-learning really excellent. Right now, that's not the vibe I'm getting.
But again, we're only talking like 2 or 3 days.
Exactly.
So I didn't really have a real strong opinion one way or the other. I asked my wife and she's like, they're great. So maybe that's
She's got
because
what?
the e-learning days are great. Maybe that's because our kids are really younger. But I'm thinking like, the exception. So you have maybe 1 or 2 of these, like it's not, maybe the assignments could be a little bit more challenging, or we could refine that a little bit more. But also, like, you're gonna have opportunities when you're in college or even in the professional world where you're just given tasks or assignments or things to do. You're gonna have to self-regulate and do those. So it just kind of gives a different perspective for these kids. And if it's only 1 or 2 days, I like the idea of kids just having a free day too. Not having to worry about school stuff. I wasn't aware that they had the opportunity to make that up the next day, which I thought was pretty cool to see. I wasn't aware of that part of the policy. And then I did have the concerns about the Wi-Fi access, but I see we have some accommodations we're trying to make, and also giving them the chance to make that up. So I feel like when this was put in place, we were trying to make the best of the situation. But I agree with what you said, Becky. Like, there's no way I want to have this for a COVID-2 situation. Like, that's not what I see either. So I can kind of see both sides.
And so not, I just.
To follow up on what you just said, sometimes the kids need a break. Sometimes our staff needs a break.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll have Dr. Bagby begin, just revisiting the process, and we'll keep you guys posted.
Yeah, I was just gonna add to the conversation that as with anything, it's a different feel, it's a different process for everybody. I mean, some people, both parents work outside the home, like there's numerous different situations. But one that I wanted to bring up was that a situation where both parents work outside the home. They have one younger child and then one child in junior high, so obviously if it's a snow day, they're probably gonna have to find childcare for their children. But on an e-learning day, not only do they have to find childcare, they have to find somebody that can maybe hold those children accountable for them to log on to the internet to get their work done. It can be difficult for some families. So, I mean, it's like anything though. It's different for everybody, like I said. So the best way to go about it, I don't know. I'm 50-50 on it. Like we have, in my family, we have kids from 4th grade to 8th grade to junior in high school. So it looks different for all of them, different levels. So it's just a tough thing to make work for everybody, like anything else.
The last just 2 cents that I was gonna offer was just that, my biggest worry comes primarily around the language in school code that says you need to have 5 hours of instruction in order to count it as a school day. And, I guess I would love clarification on whether that is supposed to be new material that we're introducing to students. I have not, I would say that there was not 5 hours of work for my kids, in any way, shape, or form. And the e-learning, like the electronic learning piece, just like to me, I'm wondering how, if it's new learning at the junior high level and you're getting an email pushed out, but you have not yet developed the skills to self-regulate or self-start or figure out how to research your own topic or figure out what you need to know, how successful are you gonna be with that? So do we wanna just say it's gonna be e-learning, but it'll all be review of recently covered materials? Which to me, I think also brings in that equity piece that you were touching on, like, we need to make sure that if we are introducing new learning to kids, that we're not introducing new learning to kids when not everybody has the ability to be there. So clarification on whether we want the e-learning to be new learning or review learning, and clarification on exactly what e-learning would be. How does that fit the 5 hours of actual instruction? Because like I was super confused when we had like the junior high and high school schedule, and like I was on my kids like, you have first period, you need to get logged in. I'm like, Mom, that's not how it works. You don't log in. I'm like, what's the point of the schedule? I don't understand. There's no point in the schedule. Like I was like, well, is that maybe when you're supposed to sign on and get help? And my kids were like, we can be college teachers whenever I get help. And I'm like, I don't get it.
You know, if we're only doing it a couple days a year, it may take more work to get it really right than it is
Worth doing.
I don't know. We'll see.
At the same time,
We'll
one
work
thing
through
that
the
I do
process.
think is important, like today, one of my kids had their COLA biliteracy test. And those are lessons they need to get before the end of the school year. So like if like AP exam is the same thing, or SAT is the same thing, like you can't just wait and hope to make up that learning in May, because by that point it's too late, because AP exams are earlier or whatever exams are earlier. So having that option to look at it and count it as a school day, there's a pro to that.
Appreciate Dr. Lee getting this to us early.
For sure.
We'll go through the process. We'll figure it out.
And it says in here that school will be called out by 6 a.m. You do an amazing job of making sure that everybody knows early. There's never been an issue. It's a lose-lose situation for you, regardless of your call.
Really?
Yeah. Makes you happy.
A couple times there was one notice, so yeah, you were really clever about that.
But we do. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we
It's not
got teachers come to school and then be told, go home. It's too dangerous.
We might have heard some
Kids are on the
comments
bus.
on that from our
Yeah.
constituents.
Uh-huh.
You're really good.
So thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, Any last comments, Dr. Van? Excellent. Okay, board self-evaluation. Kenny did some digging for us.
Yes, so the first thing is I asked Jody to reach out to Perry Hill, who was our facilitator the last time that we did a self-evaluation. And he provided some dates, and if I remember correctly, that was around $400 or $500. Jody, do you remember?
It was $500.
It was $500.
And we got a coupon.
Coupon and credit privilege, but maybe they'll still honor.
Let's see, we can.
As much as we can tell them they need
The other option is, now that we are a member of LUDA, if we wanted to pursue that as well. The difference is, the Illinois Association of School Board Large Unit District Association.
That's what, yeah.
Okay. The Illinois Association of School Boards has candidate programs. So they come in and they do it's a prescribed board self-evaluation. It's the same questions that everybody gets, things like that. It always kind of depends on who your field services regional director is. We liked Perry, working with him. With LUDA, it's the executive director, Dr. John Berkey, and it's just scheduling it with him, and then he can really, it's just kind of an open conversation with him about what we want as far as professional development wise. And then basically, he's going to send me a sample agenda. He's meant to do that over the weekend. He didn't get to it yet. And I reminded him today. He said he's remembered that he still owes me a sample agenda. Depending.
With LUDA, are we allowed to go into
Yes.
session?
Yeah, and then depending on how much prep, based on what we want, he said typically they run between $300 and $1,000, depending on how involved it gets and things like that. So it's really up to what the board wants the self-evaluation to look like.
I'll be the first to say I've always thought our ISB friends have done a great job over the years. But maybe something more customizable for the LUDA might be interesting to experience, and I haven't. I don't know.
Well,
Sorry.
no,
I have also enjoyed the IASB representatives. I think what I like about them is, I feel like they're great in training us on how to be great board members. And that's their specialty. That's what they know. They know school boards. I'm also totally open to LUDA. I think that would be a good experience because we're growing larger. I'm good with anything. I just think that to get that reflective time with one another is going to be key.
so why don't I recommend this, that as a next step, why don't we do a conference call with John Berkey, just to see exactly what that looks like and how we could fashion that, and then get dates from him. One thing that he also does as part of this service from LUDA is that he spends about every Tuesday and Wednesday in Springfield for various things. And he said that our Monday meetings really would work well for him in his schedule. So he also volunteered to come here and do a legislative update, because that's a large portion of his job. So I told him that we'd be very interested in that. So perhaps like maybe the May study session could be a legislative update and a board self-evaluation. So if that works after we talk, so I will reach out to him tomorrow and try to schedule.
Okay.
So
I'm around
that's
next week. No.
why.
Yeah. All right, that sounds good.
Yep.
All right, other comments, questions? Oh, very good. Okay, well, we do have a closed session needed tonight for the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees. Is there a motion to go into closed session for that reason?
So
I guess. Thank you. Roll call vote to go into closed session, please.
Bannister, Rock, Jordan,
yes.
Lamb,
Yes.
Severance,
Yes.
McCombs,
Yeah.
McMurray.
Yes. We don't anticipate any business coming back when we come back into open session, so we will turn off YouTube.